Okay, everyone, welcome back. It's Demise here, and today I'm going to be talking about raising your survivability in Crawl. Unfortunately, there's a lot of information in these slides, and I kind of forgot to do images, but I probably should have done that. But anyway, guide to raising our survivability. We're talking about general stuff here. So the overview for today, we're going to clarify some common misunderstandings with players. We're going to identify some common issues, and we want to have some tips for general play and tackling problems in general. Like I said, this is going to be a really basic, really really general tip. Oops, really general tips for just you know the beginning player who's always asking the question, okay, why am I dying so much? Is there a way to get better? How do I move towards my first win? We're not even talking really about getting that first win. We're talking more about just improving at the game over a period of time. So that's kind of something that I want to address today because I feel like that hasn't really been hit in the market so far. There's no real tutorials that talk about just general improvement, and I want to have that kind of idea put out there. So the first tip that I'm going to give is a really weird general one, I guess. It's for completely new players. It's that fighting is critical because it raises HP. It also raises your accuracy, but the most important part is it raises your HP. This and your experience level will stack to give you more and more HP. So you'll get probably a good amount of health if you continue to train fighting throughout the course of the game. A lot of my characters, if I was melee, for example, I'd basically have fighting on the whole game. If I'm mage, I usually have fighting on like pretty soon after I get to level. Rogue, like my stabber styles, exactly the same thing, and it's very consistent. It's very powerful. HP is really important in the game because if you think about it, it's a renewable resource. You can use it to tank things, and it makes it so that you die less to a lot of attacks. So skilling in terms of fighting, really important. I just want to bring that out in the open for all players. And just because you're heavy armor, it doesn't mean uh, you don't train dodging. I don't know if that sentence is actually grammatically correct, but I just kind of wrote that there because I wanted to point out that a lot of the misconception about this game is that um, the whole class starting area thing determines the basics of your game, like the entirety of your game plan, which is completely incorrect. Just because you're a heavily armored fighter, it does not mean you don't train dodging at all. And conversely, light armor guys want a bit of armor training as well. If you have high AC, the best thing for you to get is more evade. If you have high evade, the best thing for you to get is more armor because of the way that the whole diminishing returns works on AC and evade, respectively. So, for example, if you have plate armor and you have 40 AC and 0 dodge, or you have robes and you have 0 armor and 40 dodge, you're probably not going to be as effective as someone who has maybe like 25 and 15, or 15-25 in the opposite way. That's of course a very broad and kind of ambiguous defense. It's very difficult for you to tell what the sliding scale is of when is my AC worth more than my evade, and so on and so forth. When is giving 2 AC better than 1 evade? I don't think that it's that important for you to understand, for you to like focus too much on what exactly gives me the best defense, what combination of evade and AC will give me the best defense. But I do just want to generally say that if you are training, if you say for example you have leather armor, troll leather armor, which is a pretty good light armor, or swamp dragon armor, you might want maybe 7, 8, even 10 of armor by the end of the game. It's a pretty good amount. It'll give you enough defense. It'll add enough points to your armor without wasting too much EXP. You can have plenty of dodging training. It's fine. Same with plate armor. If you're running plate or gold dragon armor, just because you have 20 armor does not mean that 20 like armor skill does not mean you can't just chuck maybe like 10, 15 points into dodging as well, because dodging will get you extra AC, which is evade, which is what you want more of because you already have more AC. So I just want to point out that while you should be training fighting every single game, you also kind of want to have a mixture of armor and dodging. Now, there are caveats to this. There is one caveat that I can think of. It's like if you're a rogue character, if for some whatever reason you're playing a mage that only went in a robe, armor really doesn't do much because it actually scales off of how heavy your armor is. The more heavier your armor, the more armor you'll gain from training armor, and I'm pretty sure robes give you like nothing. I've trained a lot of armor on robe characters, and you get like one, maybe like one AC. It's not worth it. It does scale off your peripherals though, so I think I'm pretty sure it does. So you might get an extra hit armor class point here and there, but it's again, like I said, robes maybe I would just avoid doing armor because it's not worth it. It's also obvious in certain situations, like if you're playing a troll really early on, you don't really need to train armor. There's no reason to. It's very unlikely you're going to get anything better than maybe just robes or at best a troll leather armor, and your armor and dodging skill is pretty like you have -2 aptitudes on a troll, I believe, or something crazy like that. So it is kind of inefficient to train both. But I'm saying at some point in the game you want to have a little bit of A and a little bit of B, or more of one or the other. But and the common misconception that like underlines all that is I'm playing a squishy build, so I should focus on being squishy. No, like for example, again on the mage, you want to have your fighting, you want to have your dodging. So if you're a mage and you have less than 10 fighting, but you have a level 9 spell up, you're probably doing it wrong. Your character is going to die really easily because you've spent so much time getting a kind of wasteful, honestly, spell online while not having any defense that it does reduce your survivability. So if you want more survivability, the most general tip is raise your fighting, and the tip after that is just kind of raise armor and raise dodging, kind of not at the same time, but make sure to raise both at some point in the game. So that's just general tip number 1 in skilling. So tip number 2 is consumable use. Now, a lot of people, it's very obvious, it's overstated by now. Use your consumables. Use your consumables. If you have any consumables in your inventory, by the time you're dead, well, you're doing it wrong. Yes, that's all correct, but I just want to kind of go over that and also bring it into a little bit more of a systematic style. So I suggest, or obviously this works for. If it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. But I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of a framework to work with. But I suggest trying to divide your consumables into 3 categories. So premium, fodder, and shaping. So I'm just going to give those 3 basic names, just as kind of categorizing your items. So your premium items are the ones that are like super powerful, instantly gets you out of jail free, very often in short supply, very scary, to have none of. You feel very pressured when you have none of them. Your second one would be fodder, so these are your first response items. The stuff that you kind of have an excess of, you kind of want to, blow in place of a premium item whenever you can. And the kind of stuff that you use when you're like, well, I probably should just chuck it out because I want to be safe, right? Good example that I will bring in later. And shaping are the items that define the character that you're building in the long run. So they have really nothing to do with raising your immediate survivability, but they'll help you out in the long run by giving extra armor or extra AC or whatever, or an extra item. So when you're looking at a scenario, look for your fodder items first. So this is the kind of thing that I like to that I do instinctively, but I kind of want to break it down. So look for. I think it's a good habit for you to do kind of a layered process. Look at the danger system, the danger meter, I guess. Look at how scary the situation is, but always look for your fodder items first because you want to kind of burn those first. If the situation is not like super instantly lethal, you want to kind of use them, the weaker ones, weaker consumables, or less effective ones in every situation, or really more situational ones, if possible, before you use your premiums. And I really should have used the next slide, but we'll go over that in a sec. And the clarification is just don't hesitate to use your premiums. Use them in tandem to best improve your survivability. We'll talk about that once we get to the examples. So this is an example of a diagram kind of that I just kind of chucked around of premium, fodder, and shaping. They don't include every single version, and you could argue, one or the other is not a premium or is a fodder. Look, it doesn't matter. Like, the point is, this is my example of how I've categorized certain consumables in the 3 categories. So premium, I have heal wounds, haste, blinking, summoning. In fodder, I have agility, berserk, lignification, teleport, fear, and fog. Because not all of them have, because for example, lignification, fear, fog, Those are kind of situational. They don't like fog doesn't work on melee enemies, and if you're already surrounded. Fear doesn't work on really high MR enemies. Lignification obviously reduces your defense, but is protective against certain things, especially in the early game. That kind of thing. Berserk Rage, bit of a scary thing. Agility doesn't really save you from magic, or from stuff that's like already surrounding you and you're gonna die. And teleport is of course great, but it's not instant. Whereas heal wounds, haste, blinking, and summoning, they all do something that like is pretty immediate, has a good effect, raises your chances of survivability pretty quick. And your shaping ones are obvious, the acquirement, the enchant armor, enchant weapon, those ones, they don't really do anything in the moment. But they are really important for, obviously shaping the way your character goes. So let's go back to the other slide, and using that kind of idea, we'll talk about what we're looking at here. So for example, say that you have a centaur at max range. It got a big hit on you in the early game, and you're down to like half life, right? Okay, and you're nowhere near a corner, but you have a fog scroll and a blinking scroll. Now you could use the blinking scroll and get out of jail free, 100% guaranteed. Yes, that's sure. You're 100% going to get out because you can just blink like all the way across the screen and then just run for an upstairs or turn a corner or something, right? But instead, you could use the fog scroll, block line of sight, and and eventually engage the centaur in melee, or find a corner and then just kind of wait around the corner for the centaur to come to you, and almost achieve the exact same thing. Now, obviously, the fog doesn't protect you against certain things, but in this case, your fog is kind of situationally equivalent to your premium item, your get out of jail free card. So you do have you save that premium scroll by using the fodder item. And again, it's not a super catch-all way of understanding, because for example in Zot, blinking scrolls are awful because they don't become controlled. Fog scrolls are really good because you tend to get surrounded, so maybe fogs become premium and blinking goes down to fodder, or even like don't use this item kind of deal. So there are exceptions to the rule, but I expect that you guys are smart enough, because you guys are all functioning adults. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, you are all functioning adults, I assume. You guys understand that rules can be bent and rules do change on the fly, especially with a game as fluid in terms of game length and game difficulty and all that stuff. It is very fluid. It does change from time to time. So, these kind of rules should be bent according to the situation. So, what's your premium? What's your fodder? And what's your shaping? So, I really wanted to hammer that in. See if you guys can accept that kind of idea. See if you can implement it. Maybe even take a look at all the items in your inventory at any time and kind of say, okay, what are the things that I really want to save for the next encounter? Can I replace them with any of the fodder items that will, do an equivalent job without, sacrificing too much safety or too much whatever, too much HP? Or is the fodder stuff actually in low supply and the premiums are in high supply? If the premiums are in high supply, then yeah, don't be afraid to use it, right? And the clarification is really important here. Just because I'm saying look for fodder to replace your premium items doesn't mean don't use your premium items. And don't be miserly with them either. Use them in tandem. Don't just use one. If you're really scared, use haste and teleport. Use haste and heal wounds. Use haste and blinking. You know what I mean? Or heal wounds and blinking. Don't just do one if you're super scared. If there's a near death situation, you should be willing to blow every single thing in your inventory to get out of that spot. Of course, there are exceptions, and you shouldn't go crazy. Like, oh my god, there's one enemy left on the screen, and I'm at half health. Quick, heal wounds 4 times. Oh my god, alright, now I'm fine. No, it's kind of a waste, right? Be smart about it. But at the same time, don't be too cautious with holding your consumable. Better you die later on with nothing in your inventory than dying, than not dying. Wait, what am I saying? What? Don't worry about it. Okay, it's fine. My example kind of crumbled because I forgot what I was talking about. Because I said very specifically that, there was that saying about dying with stuff in your inventory and I got mixed up. That's fine. Anyway, let's continue. This video is actually been going on for a very short amount of time, so that's good. So, this is the next thing that I kind of want to talk about, the star tactic, the star method that I'm kind of trying to introduce again. So this is stop, think, ask, review. So this is just talking about, in general, how do you help your gameplay move along? How do you increase your ability to get out of situations? and yeah, and how to improve in the game generally. So stop is if you're in a novel or dangerous situation, and by novel I mean completely new, you haven't seen this thing before, you're in a place you've never seen before, enemies you haven't seen before, stop and slow down, or do both, just chill out. If you're in a near-death situation, don't continue tabbing, don't continue thinking that you're going to get out of it safely, and don't um, don't just like panic and go crazy with your items. Now, obviously, this is a very difficult thing to do. It's not simple at all. It sounds simple because it's been reduced to a sentence, but it's actually very difficult. Players like myself do not do the stop move enough. But it does come with a lot of time, so I can get out of situations a lot without having to stop really, because I already know usually the predetermined destination. But if you are new, you should really try to stop. Even if you aren't, just increase the amount of times that you stop per game and think about it, because maybe you get a save, maybe you might not save your. Maybe you might have lived whether you played fast or not, but maybe you save a resource here and there, and you get away with a little bit more than what you would have had. So this comes to the next point, which is think. Think about your character as a whole, not just what's in my inventory, but also how much health do I have? What's the danger? What positioning do I have? Are there any consumables that I can use? Can you get away with using a worse or renewable resource instead of a premium one? Are there any places you can run to? And I completely forgot about this before, but there's a note at the top. God abilities are also consumable. And you know what else is also a consumable? Evocables. Treat both of these as fodder. So in this situation where you're thinking, are there any God abilities you can use? Are there any panic buttons you can use? How much MP do you have? Can you get away with using, I don't know, Chabritos' Step from Time? Or are you better off using Teleport Scroll, for example? Which one would be more safe? Can you get away with using a worse or renewable resource? Yes, usually. If you have God abilities like Okawaru's abilities, Trog's abilities, McCleb's abilities, they really are panic buttons that can get you out of situations without using without using an actual resource. Piety is very renewable. It's the most renewable resource in the game other than your HP and mana, of course. So you should be willing to use them a lot. So look not only at those items and abilities though, but also look at the map. Think ahead. The game will stop for you, and you have time. So just look at what's on the screen. Look at what might be outside of the screen. For example, if you see an ogre pack, there might be an ogre mage lying somewhere around in the corner. You might not want to go the direction that the pack was originating from. Maybe you see a bunch of trolls, deep trolls, and there might be a troll earth elementalist like around the corner because you can see half the pack is in your line of sight. So you might have to run away before you see that earth elementalist and start blowing you up. Right? These are the kind of things that you want to avoid, that you can avoid if you just take a second to think about. Also, you can think about, what's the relative danger of the character's situation. How much health you on? Are you corroded, slowed, confused? Are there any things that could happen to you? Entropy Weaver's great example of this. They can sometimes corrode you, so you should think, okay, maybe I'm fine now. I'm surrounded by spiders, but that Entropy Weaver is going to corrode me soon, and that'll make it a lot harder to kill all these spiders that are around me. Just basic things like that. Another great example would be in Shoals, where you're like, okay, I'm not really surrounded by merfolk right now, but there are two merfolk avatars on either side of the screen, and if both of them mesmerize me because I have no MR, I'm going to be in deep because I won't be able to move, and I'll just be stuck between the two until one of them gives out. So I should teleport early, so maybe I can get the jump on one of them and kill them, and then not have that horrible situation happen to me. These kind of things are things you learn to recognize, but they're also things that are good to help. Are good if you say it out loud, or you vocalize it, or you internalize it. One of the two. Just think about it. And so, in terms of improving, you can also go outside the game and ask players. So consult the wikis, consult FernDB. Now, look, the thing about the wiki is that it gets bad rep, a really bad rep. But my honest opinion is that for a new player, as long as you avoid the guide stuff and just follow my channel instead, like the wiki is fine for getting basic information out of a lot of things, like spell stuff. Unless it starts like telling you how to do stuff, just you can probably ignore that stuff. But god abilities, item descriptions, all that stuff. Like you might as well just take a look at it. Maybe you can learn about entropy weavers inside. Actually, no, that's not a good idea because it's not been updated. Look, the wiki is great for just looking up stuff. LearnDB is also good, but it's kind of not as user-friendly, I guess. You need to know what you're looking for with LearnDB. Whereas wikis, you can kind of pick up the information a bit more slowly and at your own leisure. LearnDB tends to be a little bit frightening because you need to know what you're looking for before you get the information. So, obviously LearnDB is more accurate, wikis are more less accurate, but that doesn't mean wikis are horrible. You can still learn some stuff from them as long as you're careful. And like I said, if you don't trust the wiki, then just ask players. There are plenty of players out here now. You play online, there's hundreds of players. You go on my Discord, there's plenty of players. They'll all tell you everything you need to know. There's no reason for you not to do that. Crawl may be a single player game, but that doesn't mean it has to be. And not knowing something is a one-time excuse. You can die to one thing and say, oh, okay, I didn't know about that. But the next time you encounter the same enemy, you really have no excuse. You know what it's going to do. For example, the Juggernaut, the Iron Giant, the first time I saw that, it nearly killed me, and I got super freaked out because I didn't realize, I thought they were just like stone giants. Turns out they were broken. But because I knew they were broken, every single time I saw one, I would haste might agility every single time, and I'd still almost die. But it was a lot less nail biting when I was fighting them. It was a lot better once I recognized that something was a massive threat. I put it on my checklist of, okay, this is a massive threat. So, once you figure something out by either dying or almost dying from it, try to learn from that situation. Try to review it. Try to remember next time, okay, that's a dangerous spot. It should be firing off alarms in your head, when you encounter that thing. And finally, there are review. So once you've gotten out of a situation, or once you've died, you should always think, maybe take a moment either after the session has ended or post-mortem. Could you have done it better? Was there anything that you could have done to have provided a little bit more safety or a little bit more resource gain? Or if you died completely, is there anything in the morgue that could have told you something about your character that you could fix for next time? For example, when I die in my videos, I always, as much as I hate to do it, I actually go and watch the videos point where I died, and I make sure to be aware of any of the potential things I could have done to prevent that death. A lot of the time for me, I do notice that had I slowed down, I would have easily, or I wouldn't have easily, because a lot of the times I die, there are actually some pretty harsh lines that I have to go through, because as a multi-time greater player, you do kind of get in the situation where a lot of the spots, even the rough ones, you kind of have an idea of how to get out. But yeah, there are very certain lines that I still have not pursued yet, so I should have reviewed those instead. And I think that this is as much for me, helping me, as it is for you guys. I don't think that I've perfected this stop, think, ask, review method either. And I think that it would be great if you guys joined me in improving each other. In terms of this method. So if you do want to try it, you really will see that there is improvement, because even I am struggling with this own method. It's a very difficult one to adapt to. But yeah, review once you've gotten out of that situation. Could you have survived with a different set of consumables? Maybe you could try them next time. Maybe you blew one too many heal wounds potions when you should have just blown the teleport. You should have known to blow the teleport earlier. That kind of stuff. And if you died again, look at the morgue file, the skilling, the items. Are there any items in your inventory you didn't identify? Are there any items that you could have been wearing or you shouldn't have been wearing? Are you skilling wrongly? Look at this stuff, because it's really important for improving your game in the long term. So again, stop, think, ask, review. Too short term, too long term. Very good situational, very good general way of improving. And finally, just another general tip, focus on what's important. So a lot of the time you get new players that will ask the wrong questions. And because they ask, they don't ask the wrong questions because they don't know what they need to know. It's because they feel like what they need to know is really important when the reality is it's not. So, what's important in improving your positioning, consumable use, general skilling. So understanding the kind of things that I taught you before about fighting, dodging and armor, pathing. Pathing is as in where you go next. What do you have to do? Figuring out what the next point of call is an important starting point for a lot of players because you hear horror stories every day of, oh shit, I was in vaults and suddenly I went down to this 5th floor and I was dead, or oh god, I went into lair and then I went to slime because it looked cool and then bam, I was dead. Oh, it's ridiculous. This is the kind of stuff that you need to just kind of memorize. It's not that hard. It's really straightforward. It's dungeon, uh, dungeon to lair, or D10, then lair, then orc, or orc and then lair, either one, and then dungeon to 15, and then first rune is one of the non-slime branches, second rune is the next non-slime branches, vaults to 4, then depths to 5, and then third rune, and then Zod for the 3 rune game. It's just the general pathing, but like I said, a lot of players don't know that when they first start, and that's fine, but figuring out how to path is really important as well. You can deviate from the course. It does make it a little bit more difficult, but it usually makes it a bit more difficult or potentially risky. But pathing is important. Critical resists, just 1 pip of RF, maybe 2 if you're lucky. One pip of R poise in the early game. The only pip. Maybe some MR. These are pretty critical resists. They're pretty good. So knowing what you need is really good as well. But what's not important on the other hand is like stuff like, stats. What stats should I skill? It doesn't matter, It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's an illusion of choice in reality. You get fairly marginal gains from getting stat level ups. Specifics in skilling. I see it all the time. Oh, I train this until it's 5, and then I train this until it's 4, and I train this until it's 7, and then I train this until it's 8, and I train this until it's 2. I'm like, you don't need that. There is no one set path that just blanket covers every single idea. It's very, very general, guys. It's general as hell. You don't need to have specifics. For example, you just need to know kind of, okay, get my weapon to min delay whenever I can, get some fighting, get some armor, get some dodging. It's that simple. It's really that simple. Minotaur Berserker. You only need 4 skills ever in the game. You really don't need anything else. It's that general, but people overcomplicate it, and that draws away from the main point of them improving, which is let's look at the tactics, let's look at the strategy overall, let's look at the overarching strategy of the game. That's the kind of stuff you want to be looking at instead. Overstacking resists, of course, the classic, oh, it gives me R and triple plus. Oh shit, it gives me RC triple plus. Oh god, it gives me Spirit Shield and C Invis. Whoa, so good. It's not that important. You don't need to have max resist for everything, or even anything, to be honest. You don't need that. But so just don't get bogged down in over resisting and giving up better equipment. For example, in the artifacts video that I made, +5 mace of RC triple plus RLX MR. It's okay, great, but now you're using a +6 mace. You could have been using a better melee weapon. If you're a mage, yeah, sure, go ahead, but for a melee, your mace is gonna suck. Why would you want that? It's just garbage. Even if it gives you every resist in the game, it's still +6 mace. You know what I mean? It's not that good. And finally, what's not important? Having luck with your items. I still am kind of annoyed because I have seen some pretty, not even arrogant, but misunderstood, I don't know, people with misconceptions, I suppose, about luck with items. I try to point this out every time, but crops up from time to time. I think there was a YouTube video where a guy was like, haven't had some good resists, some good items in a while, and every single slot except one was filled with artifacts. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not luck. You know that, right? And those artifacts were insane. They were top tier stuff. And he was just like, yeah, sorry guys, haven't had good luck, but managed to eke out this win. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're insane. Don't go look it up. I don't remember where it was, and I have no idea where it was. It was a couple of years ago, I think. So, it was a very old video. But yeah, it was just don't worry about luck with your items, okay? It's fine. Uh, Games are usually winnable with the items you're given. You're rarely going to be that screwed out of stuff. There are games, of course, where you're completely lacking a critical item. You know, like games where I get one mutation potion the whole game. You know, that does happen. And I get badly mutated and then I get just absolutely shit on. That does happen, yes, I agree. But in terms of like equipment and stuff, just don't worry about it. You can win the game with a +9 Great Mace nothing if you really wanted to. You don't really need much more. It makes the game harder, but it doesn't make the game impossible, so don't worry about that. So, 30 minutes in. That's really all I wanted to say. Um, yeah, it's really all I wanted to say. Thanks, guys. I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. It's another Demise Newbie Corner series that I wanted to do because I've kind of been preparing a couple of slides on the download for a couple of other series. Turns out that the spell, the spell tier list thing takes a shitload of time. I've been compiling some notes on every single spell in the top tiers. Um, it's a lot of work. It's going to be quite some time before that comes out, but I am writing it in between my other things, in between my grinding and such. So, you know, I'll try to get it done, but don't look. Honestly, I don't think anyone even like asked for it really, or if they have, I completely forgot. So sorry about that. But you know, I'll get it done. I'll get it done. I really don't like having projects be promised and then not acted upon. So I'm not gonna yeah, I don't know. I'll get it done. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video or if it helped you, please please leave a like, leave a comment if you want as well. If people are struggling, let them know about this video. Let them know about the channel because I think I want to put more of these tutorial videos out, and it's pretty important for me to do that. I need to get some exposure on those because, for example, the diagonal movement guide was one of the best videos I produced in terms of like pure tactics. It's a really important video, but it was like only 400 views, which is insane because the guide to artifacts is like 1,000 something views, even though the guide to positioning was like more in depth and more well spoken, I suppose. So I do want to get more of that baseline level of tactics to kind of get ingrained in the community before I go on to like the artifacts, the shiny stuff. But that's acceptable. I know everyone loves artifacts. It's really interesting. I get it. So that's cool. But I do want to see some of these like really basic baseline ones be spread a little bit longer. So anyway, that's enough rambling for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you all next time.